We're going to keep focusing on firming the core. Once we work our way into standing, I'll go over the tip of the day, which is how to have a proper hip hinge during your squat. If you have a 5 or 10 pound dumbbell lying around, you might want to grab one. We can incorporate it into some of the mat exercises we do today. All right, so we're going to start with our warm-up. Last time we started with a kind of jumping around. I'm going to change this 1 second. Last time we started with a jumping around exercise to get our blood flowing and our muscles loose. Today we're going to do more of a mat stretching type exercise just to get our joints moving. So we're going to start by getting down on our mat on the floor. And we're going to start in that tabletop position again. Remember, your knees are under your hips, your wrists are under your shoulders, your spine's nice and straight. This one's called the cat camel. So what you're going to do is round your back out, look at your thighs, stretch here for about 2 to 3 seconds. Then you're going to switch, look up towards the ceiling, stick your butt up in the air, create a nice little divot in your back here, and hold for 2 to 3 seconds. Just going to oscillate between these two positions for about 6 repetitions. Okay, so we're just trying to loosen up our spine by getting movement in between each of the joints. Let me just keep going. This is the only time I'll ever tell you to tuck your butt in an exercise. And then get a nice stretch here. 2 more. And remember, I'm not a very good counter, but I am an excellent guesser. So we'll guess our repetitions. And 1 more here. So the next one, we're going to stay here. We're going to try to loosen up our hip sockets while keeping our spine straight. I call it rocking back on your heels, or again, this is where we start to learn about our hip hinge. So you're just going to keep your tailbone lifted up in the air as you rock back towards your heels. Notice my back stays straight. My butt doesn't curl and tuck underneath me. So again, my tailbone's lifted and my spine is straight. I feel like I'm pushing from my armpit through my hand. My elbows are straight. And then I just rock back onto all 4s. So we're going to keep doing this exercise. Bunch of repetitions here. When you're in this back position, think about your butt cheeks kind of spreading away from each other. Spine stays nice and straight. And we're going to try to incorporate this hip hinge throughout different positions today until we work our way up into the squat. So we keep stretching back to the hips. Make sure you guys give me some comments on how you thought today went so we can keep changing the program, making it interesting. Try to figure out a way how to tune Nina in so she can read the comments to me as we go through. And 1 more here. Great. Good. Now we're going to do my favorite stretch in the world. I think it's a great stretch to do before exercise and after exercise. We call it the rib pull. We're going to do a modified version. So you're going to take that top knee and you're going to pull it up towards your chest, a little bit bigger than 90-degree bend in the hip here. I'm going to take my bottom leg and it's going to be straight with my body. Bottom hand is going to go on that top knee, and then back hand is going to go on my rib cage. I'm going to inhale, let my head relax on the floor. I'm going to inhale. As I exhale, I let my top shoulder rotate back. My head just kind of goes along for the ride. I'm not straining my neck. I'm not straining my back. I'm moving into the stretch and holding it, and then I try to breathe in and out, relaxing deeper into this stretch. For this stretch, we like to hold at least for a minute because while you're in the stretch, you can sink deeper into the stretch. Make sure your top knee stays down. Okay, it helps us lock in our pelvis so that we're actually getting a good stretch throughout the spine. So we're going to hold here for another 30 seconds, just concentrating on a nice breath in and an exhale, letting the shoulder relax down. And another breath or 2 here. So when we're done with this, just holding it, we're going to stay in this position, but we're going to do a little movement. So everybody just kind of rotate out of that stretch for me. Take both of your hands and put them down on the ground, kind of like an alligator mouth, right? Our legs are still in the same position. All I'm going to have you do is take your top hand, reach past the fingers of your bottom hand, then bend your elbow as if you're pulling back into that rotation. I always say think of there's a string on your elbow pulling back as you move into your rotation, and then you rotate back, moving the hand over your bottom hand. So we just held the stretch for a minute, and now we're moving through the new range of motion that we created. We'll just do this 2 more times. So again, today we're doing a different kind of warm-up. We're just warming up by moving instead of trying to get our heart rate up and the juices flowing. Good, let's switch sides. So again, we're on our side. I'm going to take my top knee, pull it up towards my chest, hold my knee down with my bottom hand, move my bottom leg straight with my body so my trunk and my leg are in a straight line. Top hand goes on my rib cage. I'm going to inhale, exhale, and rotate that top shoulder back. Your head goes along for the ride. Don't strain your neck here. I'm going to actually try to look at the clock and count our time. When I'm in this stretch, I can feel a stretch through my hip. I feel a stretch through my back, maybe even around my shoulder blade. I feel a stretch on the front of the thigh of my bottom leg. The core like this too is you're kind of taking a dish towel and you're just wringing it out, kind of getting rotation throughout your entire body. So make sure you take an inhale, exhale, and relax a little bit deeper into that stretch. Keep holding. We've actually got about 20 more seconds to hold for the full minute. So just concentrate on breathing. I hope everybody's having a good time at home. Starting to get in a little routine over here. Good, inhale, exhale, and relax into the stretch just a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to unrotate. Take your hands, put them out in front of you. Take your top hand, reach past your bottom fingers. Pull your elbow back and rotate through the stretch. Reach again. We'll do about 5 of these. And we'll just keep reaching. And this is nice and gentle. Remember, you're always in control of how far you take a stretch. So you want to take up the slack and hold. You don't want to push in and through pain. Okay, so that was our warm-up to kind of get our middle section nice and loose. We are going to go back to the belly tight with the leg marches or the dead bug. We're going to go to the bridge with some variations on both of those. And we will do the hands and knee diagonal reach today. So that's how we're going to get our core activated. And then we're going to work up into the squat. So if you have your weight, put it by your side. We're going to lay back. And we're just going to start with the dead bug or the belly tight marches that we started on Tuesday. So remember, you're going to inhale, exhale, let your ribs fall to the floor. At the end of your exhale, take your belly button and pull it down towards the floor to firm your lower belly. So again, we're going to inhale, exhale, let that rib cage fall, firm the belly, and you can begin marching. So you can start right off doing one leg march. Remember, the knee is moving to the same side shoulder. You're not letting your hips rock or your back arch. Or you can start right off with the legs up in the air, letting the heel tap and lower. Okay? Just making sure the knee is moving towards the shoulder. That way we keep the hip socket nice and relaxed. And the belly is staying tight to keep that back from arching off the floor. Good, we'll do a couple more reps here. We're going to try to do like 2 sets of 10. One is kind of a warm-up to make sure we're getting the right muscles firing. The second one is however you want to progress the challenge. Good, and we'll do one more on each leg. Okay, so for the next set, you can either stay with the single leg march, you can stay with the both legs up, tapping your heels. If you have a weight, I want you to take the weight and you're going to press it straight up to the ceiling so your arms are vertical. Very important in this position that my shoulders aren't reaching away from the floor. Okay, you want to think of the ball and socket joint of your shoulder just resting on the floor, and then your armpit muscle or the muscle from your armpit is pressing up through the weight on both sides. So my shoulders are relaxed to the floor, not reaching away from the floor. Okay, in this position, what we're doing is we're trying to get a little overflow and more activation of those upper abdominal muscles. So from here, we're going to do the same dead bug stuff, but just holding the weight in the press. So breathe in, Exhale, drop your ribs. Tighten your lower belly. You can either begin just doing the one leg march, or you can do both legs up, tapping the heel like I am. We're going to do about 10 on each side, whatever version you choose to do. If you want to make this version a little bit harder, okay, you can think of extending the leg out and coming back up into the bent position. Okay, as you extend the leg out though, you really have to fight harder in that lower belly muscle to keep that pelvis from wanting to arch off the floor. Okay, so we're going still. I'm concentrating that my armpits are firing through that elbow and the weight. Okay, I call the shoulder blades the upper core. We're going to work on that this upcoming Tuesday. I don't know about you, but my belly's starting to quiver, which is a good thing. Do one more on each leg. And you should really feel that when you do the arm press, you just feel like you're engaging more muscles. But sometimes I also use it as a trick to help people that are kind of having a hard time controlling that arch in their back. All right, so to the bridges. So if you remember from last time, we pulled up the toes so the heels are on the floor, drive the heels down and away from us, lift the butt up in the air, and back down. Make sure that you're lifting as if your body is a board from your shoulder to your hip. Okay, we are not curling the butt and then lifting, gripping through the hamstrings. All right, we're going to do 10 here. So you can either do 10 with both feet on the ground, or you can go straight to the single leg bridge and do 5 on one side, because we are going to do a second rep of 10 with a different variation. So here's 5 on my left. If you're doing both feet, just keep bridging. Make sure your ribs are down, your belly's tight, and make sure you're breathing and not holding your breath through all of the reps. It's very easy when you start to put forth effort just to kind of hold your breath, but it's good practice to breathe through the exercise. Okay, so to make the bridge harder, if you want, you can stay with the 2-foot bridge. You can do the single leg bridge for another set of 10, or we're going to press the weight up just like we did in the bug exercise before. Toes are here. We're going to drive the hips up into the air. Make sure that your butt is fully lifted up, okay? And then you're going to keep your upper arm still as you bend your elbows, bringing the weight towards your forehead, and then pressing back up to the ceiling. Again, my shoulder blades are resting on the floor, not my shoulder blades, the ball and socket of my shoulder joint, okay? And I'm just bending and straightening. By doing this, you should feel that muscle right below your belly button. You should feel that muscle kick in just a little bit more because it's counterbalancing the glutes firing here in the bridge. Do about 4 more here. I don't know about you, but my arms are quivering and my butt's quivering. So again, if you have to take a break, lower back down, reset, and go back up. And we'll come down. Okay, so you can incorporate that weight. I said on Tuesday, we're going to talk about how the shoulder blades I consider the upper core muscles because from here to here is actually our core, not just your belly, is what most people think of it. All right, moving along, we're going to go on to hands and knees again. So we talked about the diagonal reach the other day, so make sure you're in a nice tabletop position. We're just going to do about 10 on each side here. So you can either do the version where you kick, reach, come back in, kick and reach, and come back in. If you want to make it a little harder for the set of the 10, you're going to reach, tap, and reach back out. Okay, again, I said on Tuesday, this one's really important because the core fights rotational challenges. So the core protects us by not allowing bad rotation through our spine and our pelvis and the middle part of our body. However, we make the core stronger by doing exercises that challenge us into rotation. And rotation meaning just, opposite sides of our body moving, such as walking, running, these diagonal reaches that we're doing. Good, and one more on the other side. Okay, slowly getting out of breath here. Now on to our hip hinge. So we're going to do a hip hinge from a tall kneel position. So tall kneel is just breaking the squat down a little bit. I'm going to keep my face cut off here. But you're going to get in this position with your shoulders and knees in line. And all we're going to do is start to hinge by sticking our butt back, lowering our butt towards our heels, and then lifting up tall. Okay, so you're gonna stick your butt back, lower down towards your heels, and then lift back up tall. Notice my spine stays straight right here. I don't tuck my butt and sit back towards my heels. So the whole idea is the spine stays straight and the movement comes from your hip socket rotating within the joint. Other piece of the puzzle here is your belly button. So when you're in this tall position, sometimes people don't come fully tall and then arch back through their back. I want you to imagine there's a laser pointer on your belly button, and that laser pointer is pointing perpendicular at the wall in front of you. So as you hinge back towards your heels, now when you lift, think of lifting that belly button so that it lifts tall and points at the wall in front of you. Okay, so we'll do 2 more here. This is more just to kind of warm you up to get your hips moving and up tall. Okay, onto our squats. So, squatting is important because it's incorporated into kind of any fitness routine that we do. I'm going to try to bring this up, I'm sorry. It's incorporated into any fitness routine that we do. We do it as warm-ups like we did on Tuesday. You do it for strengthening when you start adding weights to like lifting weights. So I'm going to show you a proper setup for your feet. This is hard to get in the view here. But you want to make sure that your feet are shoulder width apart. So I always say armpits to insteps. Your toes want to be pointed straight ahead. You don't want them turned out to the side like a duck. Okay? We're going to start the squat by bending through the hips. Okay? A lot of times I see people start their squats by bending through their knees. When you bend through your knees first and drop down, you have a lot of pressure right in the knee area. You have weight in the balls of your feet, and your butt tucks and your back gets strained. Okay, so we want to avoid that. So we're going to start by sticking the butt back, and then you lower as if you're sitting in a chair. My weight is biased towards my heels. My butt feels active. Through minimal work through here. Okay, as I lift, so I come back down as I lift, I drive my heels into the floor, lifting my belly button just like we did in kneeling so that I get fully tall, but don't overcompensate into an arch. Okay, so we're going to drive the hips back and then press up tall. So that's your hip hinge, and it's super important because if you don't have a proper hip hinge, this is where people then start adding weights and start pulling their back. So here we can really use our core to support our spine and allow our hip sockets to do the work that they're supposed to. Make sure your knees stay straight over your toes and not letting the knees turn inward or outward like a frog. Good, and we're just going to do a couple more here. Remember, the butt goes back. Sometimes I tell people in the clinic, imagine my legs are in concrete from my feet to my knees and they can't move. Okay, so my hip has to move back and then press up tall. Just checking our time here. I had one more thing I wanted us to do. If everybody wants to hang in on the video, let's go through it, and we can work on it even a little more on Tuesday too, but we're working towards getting better at moving into a single leg squat position. So here I have 2 feet on the ground, I have a lot of support, not a lot of rotational challenge to my belly. As soon as I pick one foot up off the floor, I create a lot of rotational instability, so my core and my hips have to work that much harder. So for this squat, you're going to drop into your squat, butts lifted in the back, weights towards your heels. I want you to imagine there's a bar from my shoulder to my hip. Okay? You're going to weight shift. Put your weight over that one foot, but notice I didn't do my butt and I didn't do my shoulder. I moved both together. My butt's lifted in the back. There's weight in my heel, not in the balls of my feet. I'm going to take my opposite leg and I'm going to tap it straight back and come to start. Yep, so I'm going to keep going. If this is a little hard, you can slide your foot on the floor. If you're on carpet, you can put a bag down, slide on the carpet. But the whole idea is my hips aren't rotating, my knee is not collapsing in, and my shoulders aren't rotating. So I'm fighting the rotational challenge that I'm creating. So again, let's try that side again. We're going to weight shift, butts lifted. I'm going to slide or tap back and back to center. Don't let your hips twist, shoulders twist, or trunk bend. Good. Okay, let's do the other leg. So we're going to squat. We're going to pretend there's that bar. We're going to weight shift over to one side. Then I'm going to go ahead and tap back and to center. So again, this is the beginning of learning how to do a single leg squat. which we can then use for jumping, safe running, plyometric type classes. But it all starts with the core activating first and then getting that proper hip hinge to make sure that we can stay stable. Okay. So I always feel like I'm not going to have enough information, and then I feel like I've been on the camera forever. But thanks for joining me today for Beat the Bore exercises for your core and pelvic floor.